Hey guys, and welcome to this video on Black Moon Lilith in astrology. I'm Cassandra, the Saffron Sage, helping you use astrology to evolve, and in this video we're talking about Black Moon Lilith. The Black Moon Lilith, we'll talk about what the point is, we will talk about the mythology, and then we'll go through what it means for the sign that you have Black Moon Lilith in your natal chart. So Black Moon Lilith is not a planet, it's not an asteroid, it is a point in space. It's called a lunar apogee, and it is the distance from the Earth to the furthest point on the moon's orbit. So the moon travels around the Earth in an elliptical orbit. It's not a perfect circle. So there is a point that ends up being further away from the Earth on that circle. And so Black Moon Lilith is that point in space. There is the Black Moon Lilith, and there's also the true Black Moon. So if you really want to get technical, you can look at both of these and see which one you feel resonates. But for the purposes of this video, just simply clicking Lilith in the chart on other objects in astro.com and seeing where it shows up in your chart, that is enough to get value out of these videos. So that being said, let's move on to the myth of Lilith. So Lilith was the true first lady before Eve even existed. Lilith was the first lady, and she was in the Garden of Eden with Adam. And one of the stories I read says they were both created from the dust of the earth. And there are many different myths that talk about Lilith. There's not just one, so these differ. But the gist of the story is that she wanted to be on top. Adam said, "No, you'll submit to me," and she would not submit. And because she would not submit, she got kicked out. Some people say she left, some people say she got kicked out, but the sort of overarching theme here is that she was not accepted just for having the same desires that Adam had. I think it's so fascinating that this story isn't even told. And so again, here the myths differ, but they all kind of basically curse her in some way or another. One that I read said that her children would be cursed to die if she didn't come back to Adam. So we see the themes in this story of, the masculine need for power and control and the feminine need to be wild and free, and how those don't match up. So what does this mean in the natal chart? Lilith has, in my opinion, two meanings. Okay, so one meaning is that Lilith can be the shadow. So this can be an area of life where you tend to overdo it. You have maybe too much of this energy, or the way that you express the energy wherever your Lilith is in your chart is like the shadow side of that sign, the negative side, the overindulgence. It can be where you feel like there's never enough. The second meaning of wherever your Lilith is the thing that people don't let you express, the thing that people get upset at you for expressing. And this may or may not be the energy of your sun, moon, or rising, depending on where Lilith is in your chart. But oftentimes you can actually be embodying this energy in a normal, regular way, and people will not accept you for living that out, even if it's balanced. And so it takes a little bit of self-knowledge, like true self-knowledge, true soul searching, to really be able to kind of parse out the difference with Lilith between where you possibly could be overindulging, where you could be, never satisfied, versus where you are naturally embodying that energy in a balanced and healthy way, but it somehow rubs other people the wrong way. Just like Lilith in that story where she wasn't really doing anything wrong. She just said no once. And that was enough to get her cast out of basically society and demonized for the rest of her life. So this is the story in our own lives where we have those sort of archetypes, those themes play out, even if they're not as extreme, right? So we might not be cast out of society, but people around us might not approve for certain things. And, that has ripples and layers of effects. So let's now get into what Lilith means in your sign. So if you have Black Moon Lilith in the sign of Scorpio, there are two ways this can show up. One is through having an insatiable appetite for Scorpio type things, which we'll address more specifically. When you express like the natural embodiment of Scorpio energy, people don't accept that about you. So let's talk about it. There's a certain intensity here, okay? So for some people with Lilith and Scorpio, you could really like to expose the truth, to expose secrets. You could be somewhat secretive. You could be interested in like investigating or researching or anything where you get to the bottom of something and bring it up, because Scorpio energy is revealing what is hidden. Okay, so this can tend to translate into things like investigating or journalism, but there's this deeper need that it's not just revealing what's hidden. There's aspects of power here. So it's like exposing the deep dark secrets of power dynamics, or exposing universal laws and the way to harness true power, or magic, or black magic, or any other kind of spiritual, esoteric, or unseen forces that have power over people in one way or another. This is all going to come into play with Lilith and Scorpio. This does not mean that you are going to like have all of these traits. You will probably resonate with maybe one of these majorly. Another way this can show up, you guys, is sexuality. And this is because, you know, sex even is considered something that is sort of unseen, that we don't talk about at the dinner table, but that everyone participates in some way or another. So it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be like too interested in sexuality, but you just might be more sexual than the average person, whatever that looks like for you. And then other ways that Lilith can show up in Scorpio is, again, like feeling like you can never get enough of understanding the truth, of getting to the bottom of something, of clearing out abuse, of having power. And oftentimes the power that people with planets in Scorpio, placements at all in Scorpio, want is the power that comes from being powerless. The feeling of being on the bottom in some way, having no freedom or no ability to get what you want or to influence your environment, and then like wanting to come out on top. The story of Lilith already is kind of like this, okay? It kind of is a story of being powerless, being outcast. For why? For wanting to have your own power, just like everyone else. So someone with Lilith in Scorpio could probably resonate more with the Lilith story and see themes of that in their life than people with Lilith in other placements. There's other things about this placement that, you know, could just be people don't accept you for how you express your sexuality, or people reject you for even like looking or dressing too provocatively, or this could show up in any of the other Scorpio themes that I talked about. So if you're into magic, people could be more triggered by that than someone else who is. You know, they might be more likely to try to make you wrong for that. And ultimately, anytime you express your power with Lilith and Scorpio, someone is not going to like it. And I feel that, you know, there's a fine line here, because we all have the potential to misuse power and be called out for it. I'm not talking about that. I'm not talking about people calling you out for things when you have overstepped. So it takes a lot of self-awareness to be able to navigate this and see the difference. But this is more about people who are accusing you of things that aren't true, right? Accusing you of doing things behind the scenes that aren't real. Someone with Lilith here could have just more accusations when it comes to what you do in private, more accusations of being secretive, of lying, more accusations of people kind of making something out, making you out to be mean when your intentions were positive. There's also, you know, this truth teller energy of Scorpio, this digging up the real thing. And that can show up as wanting to confront people who are not being honest. And so if you're doing that, this can be an energy people reject or people criticize you for. And you can book a private reading with me if you want more on your Lilith, or just how to navigate your purpose, your path, and your life, all that stuff. You can check out the link below for that. And I'll see you guys in the next video.